renewable. Not yet. We're sponsored by Big Oil and Gas, so keep filling up those tanks. Tax breaks for the fossil fools and hide the wealth in offshore banks. It's not a crisis. It's a scandal. 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 While our leaders are sipping on their subsidised gin and tonics, lecturing you on household budgets and trickle-down economics. Your pay is frozen as interest rates and inflation rockets. The invisible hand of austerity is deep inside your pockets. It's not a crisis. It's a scandal. 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 It's a scandal. It's a scandal. It's a scandal.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this open call. Lovely to see so many people here. Unfortunately, there are too many for us all to introduce ourselves in person, but please do use the chat just to say hi, where you're from, and who you are. It's always great to see where everybody's from, so please do that. I've got one person saying no sound. I hope everybody else can hear. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you. That was slightly alarming. Good. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Molly. I've been part of the XR Reading local group for about 4 years now. I've been part of Southeast Action planning team. I've been an internal coordinator of the Southeast, and I'm now the internal coordinator of the UK Actions Circle, which is presenting this strategy. But I have to say, it's as a local rebel that I am really excited about this strategy, because this is really the UK strategy for the next period is a local strategy. All of our strength is going towards strengthening and enabling local groups to grow and strengthen the movement. So I think that's enormously exciting. We have got a lot to get through, so I'd just like a few housekeeping notes, if we could. If everybody could keep muted whilst people are speaking, that's really helpful. And now, once the first speaker starts, could we then limit the chat to questions and any tech issues you might have? We're not going to take questions as we go along. Somebody is going to garner them from the chat. We're going to deal with them all at the end, but it's quite difficult to do if there is other stuff in the chat. So if you could just limit yourself to either tech issues, which our lovely team will help you with, or questions, that would really help us. Following on from the call, there is going to be lots more information, and our folks from the tech team are going to put links in the chat to the movement broadcast and the rebellion broadcast, both on Telegram. If you're not yet part of those, please do join up. That's where so much information goes out. We also have the UK Rebellion team on Mattermost. This has transferred over from the old 100 days space where we had the Ask Anything space, which everybody found hugely useful. So we're hoping to keep using and developing that. And also the strategy document itself will be on the Rebel Toolkit. So there will be a link to that. So that's loads of information for you. So before we start this call, it would be good to take a little bit of time to check in with each other and with our purpose for being here and for being part of Extinction Rebellion. For this, I'm going to go off being pinned and everybody on screen will be visible. This call is being recorded, so if you're not happy having your face briefly on camera, please could you turn your camera off? But in any case, people will still be able to see your name, and I'm going to ask people to reach out to other people in their thoughts. So if we could just, if Ned could take me off spotlight so we can see people. Thank you. So I've never done this with this many people, so this is great. So I'd just like everybody, so that we can connect with each other and with our purpose, to just look at your screen and choose one person, somebody you don't know, and just keep them in your thoughts. So this person is someone who's given up precious time to be here this evening, sorry. They're present here and they're ready to listen. In this moment, send them gratitude for this. Then if you'd just like to move your gaze to somebody else. This is someone who has a life outside of XR, with demands that they're trying to balance with the urgency of the times that we live in and what is required from us. In this moment, send them strength. And we'll move on to the last person and choose someone else. This is someone who is part of your crew. However different you are, whether or not you know each other, you have a common purpose, which is greater than anything which could divide you. In this moment, send them love. Thank you all. Now I'm going to hand over to Rob, who is going to talk through the main points of the UK Action Strategy.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for that, Molly. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, brilliant. All right, that's good. My name's Rob, and I'm here at the moment based in East London. If you keep checking in on the chat, it's really lovely to hear about where everyone is. Where you're active. I'm going to get a slideshow up so we can all follow. Now, here we go. So, this is the presentation of the action strategy, this first phase of the action strategy, because we are, as it says here, building towards an even larger mass mobilization in 2024, one where we vowed to stay for as long as it takes. Um, and I'm excited by the strategy because this is, I think, really what we had in mind. The process for developing this strategy this time has been an interesting one. We really tried to make it more inclusive by having a sequential process. So we had a different group looking at it, which weren't just action planners. We had gardeners, we had doctors, we had scientists, we had people who had been very active simply during the big one. And we connected with these people and we brought them in and we ran a 5 or 6 stage in the end process to begin to look at all different various layers of action. We mapped all of the different campaigns that we were aware of happening in the UK over the next 12 months. We also looked at some of the other stories that were going to be in the news, regardless of what Extinction Rebellion were doing. For example, the biggest one, I think, and one of the big things that we will be focusing on for 2024 is the UK general elections, but also local elections, and how the public is responding to that. But obviously, in the shorter term, rising inflation and continuing scandals around all sorts of subjects that we're seeing all the time. So we began this process. We tried to amplify different voices, and then we connected that again with the usual structures within XR that looks at these strategies and connects them into the movement strategy, which was presented last month, and thinking about how actions are really going to connect across the movement and get us to our goal. So here's the taglines that you're probably aware of from the big one and 100 days, but it might be the first time you've seen them. Here comes everyone, everywhere. So Molly was right. The thing about this strategy that I think is the most important is the decision to absolutely focus on supporting local work in a way that I don't think has been tried before. But first, I'm going to talk about what I would call the staircase to rebellion. So after the big one, or any rebellion, what happens is Extinction Rebellion UK becomes much more visible. We put a huge amount of effort nationally into creating an amazing event. We bring more and more people together. And the big one was a massive success for bringing people together. It takes a huge amount of energy. It's like pushing upwards. We pushed up and up and up, but you can't sustain that energy. You know, it took us 100 days and more to get us there. It's not something that you can just sustain. But what we want to make sure doesn't happen is that after we've kicked ourselves all the way up, we've pushed it up, that we don't just begin to curl back down because we don't do the right things and we slowly lose relevance or whatever it is. Now, obviously, the last many years have been hard because of the pandemic and because of a number of things, but the big one has really set us up and it was a massive success. We have amazing relationships with lots of supporter organizations that just weren't there 100 days ago. So in many ways, it's made Extinction Rebellion hugely relevant. Now, what we need to do is to consolidate that height that we built, if that makes sense. That's why it's a staircase. So we've now got to put the bricks down and fill out that area underneath the stair that we've just built. And then we're on a higher platform to launch to the next big thing. And the way we do that is by really working on our local alliances, consolidating our supporter work, and boosting that sense of connection, that sense that Extinction Rebellion is really working for something that we all are. So the year ahead involves local and general elections. We know that at some point over the next year, a general election is going to be called. Now, what we're seeing across the UK is huge amount of discontent with both of the main two political parties. There's a huge amount of recognition that effectively there is not going to be a solution to the global debt crisis, the fact that 54 countries are in debt distress. There's not going to be a solution for climate justice, for any of the ecological justice demands that we have within the current political system. So whatever we call the root of this crisis, the root in the UK right now is a political system that is absolutely gridlocked with scandal or with all sorts of things that I don't want to say right here on a recorded Zoom, but you know what I mean. And what XR has done since the beginning has said that citizen-led change is the way forwards. And now, after over 5 years, it's really, really beginning to take off. People really beginning to understand that. There are more and more groups working on assemblies, and Extinction Rebellion has really been pushing that since the beginning. So we will continue to push for citizen-led change, and that will be the rebellion that we're looking for in 2024, because ultimately there isn't going to be change without a citizen-led democracy in this country. So we're pushing for that. But the way we're going to build that in the medium and short terms is an undivided focus on the local, which means we're not going to do any sort of big campaign that is going to sap a whole load of resources that we don't have and not consolidate that staircase. So we don't want to tail off. And sometimes it's really tempting to go, oh, well, we've got all this energy now and people are interested and we just should do every next thing that comes in. And the emails are coming in every single day at the moment about the next thing we should focus on. But it wouldn't be a strategy if we focused on everything all at once. So we have chosen to have an undivided focus on supporting local groups with the campaigns that they are already doing, and to develop connections so that they are able to raise those campaigns to the next level, but deepen their community work, so that the next time we come together, our whole communities are coming with us. And that's what we've got to really have as our aim. And this is the mass mobilization in 2024 that we're trying to build, with all of those groups coming with us. And the date when that finally is coming about, we will decide that together as a movement. So what next? What are we actually going to do? Extinction Rebellion UK has over 200 local groups. It's one of the only movements in the country that is this well diffused throughout the UK. And the only other group being Friends of the Earth, I think. And of these 200 local groups, each of those groups have their own key issues, things that are absolutely local to them. It could be an incinerator, it could be an airport, it could be a water facility that's dumping shit in the rivers, it could be air pollution, all sorts of issues that are relevant locally. Now, those issues are relevant in other places too, other places where there are airports or water companies dumping shit in the river, far too many of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the campaign that we did through the big one, which was the People's Pickets. The People's Pickets, we identified all the government departments, and we brought campaign groups together. They told us what their issues were and which department they wanted to target, and that made us able to connect these groups together and help them to self-organize. Then we were able to provide them with support for programming, for how to build these local alliances, for how to source materials, what designs they needed, and action support. So what we're going to do is we're going to itemize every single local campaign that exists within our UK local group knowledge in the country. We're going to try and link that also with the allies in those countries. It could be a local Friends of the Earth group, but it could be something else with the allies that we have in each community around the country. And we're going to look at all the diaspora communities and the other communities that are affected in those areas. And by bringing all of this work together, we can then connect those groups by issues. We can tailor support. And there's functionality for this. We already tried it with the big one and it was really effective. Also means that we can bring ourselves back to that absolute root need to have decentralization, because decentralization is what makes XR XR, and it is very, very attractive. So one of the most attractive qualities, as it's been rated by articles studying strategy and why XR was so successful in 2019. So we want to really bring out decentralized coordination by connecting groups around issues. So you might be in Teesside dealing with your incinerators, and you'll be connected with someone in Edmonton who's dealing with their incinerators. That way you can share press releases, you can share design, and more we can work towards sharing dates, sharing key days of action, which we know brings us amplification and higher impact. It means that communities can connect with each other who are actually geographically quite far apart. And you can start creating solidarity links that are really, really powerful and very, very scary for those who wield power. So we're learning lessons from the big one, and we're going to take them locally. So you could call these, what we're now going to do is we're going to try and coordinate this with a project that is about 6 days of UK-wide community action on the last Saturday of every month from September till February. So that is 6 Saturdays. What we're going to try and do is build on the successes of the big one. So this means there'll be a focus on local alliance building. There'll be a focus on helping groups connect, on resources, on helping get groups get their communities out or support what the communities are doing. So this is really important. Obviously, this project is important. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but this is complementary to what local groups are doing, and it shouldn't detract from what local groups are already doing. So some local groups and regions and nations are already taking action really proactively, and they've got dates set in the diary that already work. That's great. So we want to hear about them. And by connecting up, we're going to hopefully hear about them. And then we might be able to help connect other groups to that date. So that's the point. But we know that that can't happen. If we go out there and we just don't give any dates at all, then we know that it easily won't happen. So we're also, as a main project within XR UK actions groups, we are going to try and push out these 6 days at the end of the month, from September to February. And we're going to really try and help groups bring something together on those days, because repetition is really important for alliance building. And we learned this from the big one. It's very, very hard for groups to commit to co-organize anything. So in the big one, we learned that groups would eventually sign on, and they might send an email, and they might even come on and bring a gazebo. But we can't honestly say that any of those groups actually co-created the shape of the big one. It would have been lovely to say that they had, but they didn't. However, since the big one, there's much more appetite to do it. So by announcing 6 repeating days, you can say, well, we've done this first one and you came along. Can you maybe trust us a little more? The next one, what do you want to call it? What do you think the focus should be? How do we share this? It enables groups to break down those barriers that are often just barriers of perception and learning and everything the media has told us about each other. And so repetition can really help us do that, but also synchronizing all of our work, whether that's outreach or community assemblies or anything else, synchronizing on what at one moment, like for the big one, is really impactful. And that's just a fact. You know, outside Parliament, there's a different group every single day of the week. And what you do by bringing them all together on one day means that Parliament's a bit quieter for the month leading up to it, but on one day you suddenly got 50, 60,000 people there, like we did with the big one. So we can do that again in communities. It's a good design, and we're going to try it. We're going to try to do 6. But as I said, and I want to repeat, it's complementary. So if that feels really scary and your local group doesn't have capacity, it's customizable. The whole point of this is we're going to support and grow. Maybe you can support your region. Maybe you don't want to do it locally, but you can support a nearby local group. We're going to also help groups over the next months to connect. So you might have 2 active people in your group, and there might be 2 active people over there in the next door village, in the next door group, and there might be 2 people over there. We can connect to help connect together if that hasn't already happened, so that it feels like there's more capacity, so that it doesn't feel like you're alone. But what's really important is that XR UK, all the circles that are working really hard and worked really hard on the big one, are going to be working really hard to support your work, not to tell you what to do, to support what you're going to do. Okay, so on that last day of the month, we'll talk about that much more as we get into it over the next few weeks. But it's going to be a day of action. You might focus that day around dirty water, or you might focus around an airport action, or you might focus it around something your community is really interested in. You're going to do loads of outreach. There'll be assemblies. It's all about local alliance building. And something else that will come up, we're going to really work on community benefit. How can we show that XR is doing the work, that we're out there and we're getting on with it? Because we know that that's something that is really scary to the people in power, when suddenly we change tactic. They thought we were this, and then we did this, and then we're going to do this. Let's get people on side with us in a way that's really, really something XR can do, and other groups maybe can't do it so easily. And that way we can complement the whole ecosystem of groups working together. So we're going to break it down into the 3 demands. You know these really well. I'm going to speed up a little bit just to make sure we've got lots of time for Q&A. Paint the streets. So this is really important. Visibility is strategic. If you walk down a village and just a high street somewhere, and you see in someone's window, or just a residential street, you see someone's window an XR symbol or an XR poster, it makes you feel so good, or it makes me feel so good. I'm not going to project that onto you. I love it when I see an XR symbol in the middle of somewhere I've never been before. I go, wow, yeah, there's some, I feel like I could knock on that door. We're not alone. So why I should have symbols in every single window? And we should all have symbols in all our windows. Let's get posters up everywhere. It's really important. It's really important that people see they're not alone. It's strategically very powerful. So you might have loads of old posters lying around, loads of old flyers. Let's just Tipex out all the dates and put them up in the windows, because the symbol's a symbol. The other thing is to be proud of your actions. You know, it's really important to respect communities, but it's also really important to say we should be visible. The reason why a lot of groups want XR to support them is because we've got knowledge, we've got expertise that we've built, we've got resources, we've got people who've been doing this stuff. If we hide our banners and our flags all the time, then people don't think that we exist anymore. But we're here. We absolutely do exist. So we undermine the very thing that groups actually want us for. So we need to make sure that we are visible, that we get our flags out and we keep them out. Think about local arts and community spaces. They're an absolutely brilliant way to get people involved. Community spaces, the climate emergency centres, there's a link to them in the Rebel Toolkit, but also the creative circles, really happy to help set up local art centres. It's really worth joining those communities and finding out more. You might have one already, they're brilliant. It's just so good for bringing people in. When it comes to designing and putting stuff up on the streets, get them on bus stops, get them in your local coffee shop, get them on windows, get them everywhere you can, and use humor and audacity. The Otpor movement in Serbia it's a really good one. There's a wonderful little documentary on YouTube. It's really worth a watch. It's only about 40 minutes long. And what you get from that is they absolutely used messaging, very simple messaging, to help topple a dictator. And it's absolutely powerful to do that. Use humor, be bold, be daring, but get it out there. The more leaflets you get out there, the more they think there are of us. And the more they think there are people who care about the climate, the better. For help with that, there's going to be loads of help coming through the pipeline, but also there's going to be a whole new design and messaging guideline pack out on July the 30th, or if not before. So if you do feel at a loss, July 30th, there'll be loads more coming down the pipeline. But yeah, a symbol's a symbol. So let's use the old stock. Okay, act now, state repression and tactics. So there's a famous quote that everyone quotes and misattributes to Gandhi, and the internet told me off for trying to misattribute it to Gandhi again. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to attribute it to Nicholas Klein. First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they attack you and want to burn you, and then they build monuments to you. So the other version of this is first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. So in this case, we're clearly at the fight you stage. The Public Order Act, the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act, they're absolutely just some of the few, and there are more in the pipeline to try and restrict the power of protests and union work. So there's a lot of repression going on, but this is also a bit of an opportunity. We knew this from the beginning. It was predicted from the very beginning that state repression was going to increase, and this is part of what always happens. It seems to be how power defends itself. And it's really important now that we don't turn from the tipping point. And that tipping point is a social tipping point. So we need to keep people on side, and we need to keep people aware of what is going on, and these powers are increasing. So that's something that we should think about in our actions and how we message them going forwards. Because ideally, a really clever action will help to turn public sympathy that is increasing because of actions that really show and demonstrate the police overreach and the state overreach, and turn that into public outrage. And we need to be part of that wave and not lean away from it. And that goes into actions that are invitational. actions that say yes to people. And this was something that loads of people identify as the reasons they got involved with XR to begin with. Just they felt there was an atmosphere of yes, they could do what they wanted to do. They could care about what they wanted to care about and not hide it from their family at the dinner table. But they could get on with doing something about it. And we need to bring that to all the new people who join us. And it's up to all of us to create that atmosphere and find ways to help, improvise. Resonant actions are actions that have a clear community benefit. And that doesn't mean not doing a direct action in a way that's obvious. You know, shutting down a coal mine, if it's done with the support of the community, is a really, really strong community benefit. It's what the government should be doing, but we're doing that work. But also handing out food, it's a community benefit. There's loads of things that we can do. Putting local musicians on a stage at a climate gig that we're doing at the end of the month, it's a community benefit. There's lots we can do on this. And they have a lot of local resonance. And we definitely learned this from the big one, something a lot of people gave us great feedback on. And the last one is a little bit of a new angle, but we know that this is coming up in the over the next 6 to 9 months, which is one way of calling it is rendering invisible disobedience visible. Another way is really just calling it what it is, which is that because of inflation, because of cost of living, because of the terrible way, scandalous way in which the state has been running sectors of care and others for the last age, many people, more and more people, are not able to pay heating bills, energy bills, water bills, food bills. And we need to work together to support campaigns that can support those people directly, but also maybe think about turning that case of can't pay, which often ends up being forced to pay, into a collective political action of won't pay. And we can do that together. So we're also looking into that. Final slide, decide together, citizen-led democracy. So we talked about this. There can be no climate, ecological, or global justice without changing this political system. And I defy anyone to explain how that could be untrue. So this is our moment building towards 2024, the one where we stay for as long as it takes, because people have had enough and we really need to feed that. And we're going to feed that with our Paint the Streets campaign, and we're going to feed that with our actions. So our community assemblies, what we do on the streets in our communities, and the other ways in which we connect with local groups in our communities is really, really important, because we can show by example that citizen-led democracy can work at the local and grassroots level. But we're also going to take part in a new campaign that's going to get this into people's living rooms and dinner table conversations, because not enough people can have thought outside or are able to, because there's such a sort of fusty atmosphere in the UK about this political system. It's so old and baroque and awful. But we need to really show that imagination is possible. Yes, we can abolish the House of Lords. Yes, absolutely, we could replace it with a House of Citizens. We're going to discuss that. The whole movement's going to look into that as an option. But right now, we're just going to lean into citizens' assemblies. We're going to look at all of the options. But whatever happens, there is no climate, ecological, or global justice without changing the system. So we've got to really build a campaign so people know that. Okay, those are the main points of the strategy. And we're now going to hear a question for you.
Thanks, Rob. That was absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I hope you all really are excited by that and taken a lot of that on board, and really looking forward to what we can do next and work within our communities and groups to make stuff happen. So yeah, we're going to have a question which will be multiple choice, so you can sort of feed into where you see, you know, where you are at the moment, or what you perhaps like to see, which would be really cool. What you're most excited about after everything you've heard today. So we've heard some great things around Paint the Streets, community assemblies, citizen-led democracy campaigns, local campaigns that you might already be doing or working on, or issues within your local area that you'd like to continue doing, or aligning campaigns with other groups. So it's going to be a multiple choice question, so you can kind of answer where you're at, or what you're really looking at doing, or where you really see you'd like to go forward with this. So you can have a couple of minutes to sort of have a think, and it would be really great if there's already stuff in your local area, campaigns, issues that you're working on, if you could feed into the chat, because we'd really love to sort of hear about that, and see what it is you're working on and doing at the moment. It would be, as Rob was saying, if there's sort of the same sort of issues or campaigns that are going across regions, nations and stuff like that, it would be really great, you know, to sort of combine that and link in and talk about how we can make that really effective, same times and same days and stuff like that. There might be something that's really specific to your area that you'd really like to talk about. So paint the streets, for example, amazing. Get out there, get out in your town. It's amazing what it can look like, even if there's only a few of you, but once that message starts getting out there, it looks absolutely amazing. People see it everywhere. Imagery is everything. And once people start sort of picking up and seeing that, it, you know, the few turn into what looks like the many. So it's a great thing to do. Assemblies, a great way of aligning with other people, talking about, again, local issues and working as a collective and building those bridges and stuff like that, and really connecting with people and working together. Democracy campaigns can be supported with that, and you know, we can that's something that we can talk about further as the weeks and months go on. But it is something that's quite important to people in our current political system as well.
Sorry to interrupt, Sparrow. Dom, could you launch the poll?
It is launched. It's going.
Local campaigns are really important. That's what's at the heart of many communities. Certainly, I know where I am. It's key to you know what's important to us, because it's on our doorstep. So it could be that you've got a cross collaboration already there. Lots of different groups that are working on things already. You're just kind of working separately. So how can you bring that together? How can you draw that together? Can we help with those links? Can you reach out? Can you make those links and make 5 small groups into one big group that, you know, doesn't go away? And like I say, post it in the chat. We'd really, really, really love to hear what it is you're doing. Yeah, and fantastic. I can see it all coming in. Looks great. Love it. I'll pass to Miranda.
Thank you, Sparrow. Yeah, that was great as well. And it's exciting for me to see that the actions with other allied groups is currently getting the most people saying that they're the most excited about it, which is very cool. So I'm Miranda from Relationship Circle and Action Circle as well. And before I go into some of the kind of actions and relationship stuff, I just want to say that the next open call will be relationships focused, and in that open call we will be releasing new resources that help with local alliance building and local community alliances. So we're updating the old ones from the big one and releasing new ones, and we're also planning a training course on building local alliances. So all of that is coming, and this is very much a teaser to that. So we've spoken about how Action Circle are going to be focused on supporting local groups. There will be actions happening outside of that though, and they will be actions with other groups. So actions that we take with our allies, with other organizations that we work with, enable us to tell a story. So we can work with groups that might not even necessarily have climate as a focus, and by working with them we can show the intersections of how the climate crisis relates to other issues that people face. we can draw links between the problems that people are really facing in their day-to-day lives with the impacts of the climate and ecological emergency, and show how it's really impacting people in ways they might not realize, and show how the climate crisis is driving a lot of the problems we're currently facing as well. So we're aiming to foster deep working relationships with strategically chosen groups. So we're going to keep working with groups and supporters from the big one, and also seeking out new supporters and groups that we weren't able to collaborate with for the big one, but with more time we may be able to. And by engaging in this collaborative work, we seek to really develop actions that resonate with the public, as other people have mentioned, this idea of resonance, and touching on issues that affect people's lives, because life is really hard right now, and there's a lot that's not right. So we can, there's a lot we can take action on, and other groups have expertise and other organizations have expertise on issues that we don't. We have knowledge and skills, they might not as well. So by working together, we can really strengthen each other's hand, and also broaden our own reach, and surprise people as well, because one of the things that was really successful about the big one is being seen with unlikely allies and partners, and feedback from political circle revealed that actually sort of people in power were really shaken up by that, to see us working alongside groups they didn't expect. So by working alongside partners and allies, we can tell a new story about ourselves, tell a new story about how we're all so ready for change that we're willing to put differences aside and come together, and all of that. So that's going to be happening via relationship circle, but very much with encouragement that local groups are going out and doing allied actions as well. And as I've said, there'll be so much support coming for that, and there will be more information in terms of who we're working with centrally that I know helps local groups when they're building alliances as well. So yeah, watch this space, look out for the next open call for more information on all of that.
Cool, thanks so much, Miranda. I think we're back to Sparrow.
Yeah, thanks, Miranda. That was really good. Yes, so we're on to our second question. Again, multiple choice. Probably the most important one as well, actually, because it's what we can do, what we can help with, what we can assist with, what you need to enable your actions or community building, what it is you need to happen. And there can be lots of different things around that. It could be that you need workshops, so you want to get together, you want to do some cool stuff together, you want to arts, creativity, whatever it is, you want to get together, do some all sorts of different things, really want to meet up with people and just connect. A lot of it as well can be capacity. We've only got so many hours in the day, right? And we've all got jobs, as much as a lot of people don't think we have. And, we've got to fit all this in with everything we do. And it's really important as well that we remember that we need to look after ourselves. So there's nothing wrong with saying, I can't do this, what can I do? How can I reach out? So capacity could be a thing. Is there a way you can reach out your local groups from other towns, other regions, and move together to build something stronger? Training can be something as well. It's quite daunting sometimes if you don't really, if you're a bit worried about stuff, especially in the current circumstances. So is it NVDA? Do you want to talk more about legal side of things, or do you just want to talk about how to talk to people, because that can be really daunting as well when you feel like you're getting pushback? So how can I talk to people more and that sort of stuff? So there's lots of training that can be offered as well. Creative and supportive materials, so how to make your action happen, how to make it huge, big and beautiful. Yeah. So, we've got fantastic arts factories up and down the country. There's lots of support, lots of creative people You know, if you've got an idea, if you want to make something huge, big, beautiful, how do we make that happen? You know, there's support for that as well. And if you just need a bit of care, if you just need a bit of love, if you just need a big hug, then we're here for whatever it is you need. And we will wrap you up, we will cuddle you up, and we will give you a huge hug. And there should be more hugs. And if there's anything else not on that list we haven't covered, please pop it in the chat, because we will, you know, it's really important. This is the most important part. How do we support? How do we help you? How do we assist? How do we make everything so big and beautiful that people just can't look away anymore? Yeah. So whatever it is, pop in the chat, and yeah, much love all, and I'll pass to propaganda.
Thank you, Sparrow. Hello, everyone. It's lovely to see you. My name is Propaganda, and I'm part of a group called Action Planners Circle, which I'm here to tell you a bit about and what our goals are to support you in these coming months. Action Planners is a group of dedicated rebels from across the UK who represent their regional or national actions group on a UK level. Our goal is to support and empower rebels like you to design and undertake direct action in your local community and beyond. We know that in the past there has been a lack of clear pathways of support for rebels and local groups on their journey into direct action. Over the coming months, our aim is to build a community of actions-orientated rebels to come together and plan actions, whether this be local and regional actions or national campaigns. How we plan to do this is by having monthly actions community workshops, where everyone is invited to come together and brainstorm different ideas for potential actions. If there is an idea that a group identifies as a potential action and has the resources and experience to develop the idea further themselves, then great. That is the beauty of our self-organizing system. However, if a group or rebel identifies an idea, but does not feel that they have the capacity or resources to pull it off, then we would like to offer our support to help you through the process of designing and planning that action. This would be based on the specific needs of and asks of each individual idea, whether that is strategic planning advice, helping to create an action pack, helping to create a proposal to present to Action Circle, or linking them up with the relevant action support teams we have available, who are there to help you with practical on-the-ground support during action, such as stewarding, well-being, legal advice, and much more, which you can learn about on the Rebel Toolkit. The next part of our plan is to make more training resources readily available and to provide training in action design and non-violent direct action. Alongside this, we hope to use these action community workshops to create a safe space for feedback and learning concerning actions, to better understand what works well and what we can improve when designing actions in the future. These actions community workshops are completely optional and are by no means the only pathway to action. It is simply an idea of how we can better support local groups to undertake direct action and to build resilience in their community in the build up to a sustained resistance. We are launching these workshops in order to get them started and gauge interest, with the first one launching next Sunday on the 2nd of July. Everyone is welcome, but don't worry if you can't make it on Sunday, as there will be 3 more workshops at different times in the next 2 weeks. You'll be sent an email after this meeting with details of the 4 workshops and how to get involved. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer. And I'll pass back to Molly for our Q&A session.
Thank you. Yeah, please do. We've got a few questions already, but please do keep putting them in the chat and we will find people to answer them. So the first question we have is, which I'm going to pass over to Sparrow to answer, is will there be any funding support for local groups?
Thanks, Molly. Yeah, so what we've been doing certainly in our in our region is we've started a crowdfunder, and I know there's been some lots of work done within central circles to put out some guidance and stuff in regards to how to best do that, because I think it's really important that we really engage with sort of communities and stuff like that, and actually like crowdfunding and alliance building, all of that kind of works really well together. So yes, like there's lots of support available, but in you know, in terms of a big community impact, I think it's better to drive it within regions and local groups, and I think that's really effective and working quite well at the moment. And there's more sort of guidance coming out into how to do that within local groups and regions in regards to fundraising.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's also important to say that you know the main the main aim is to support local groups. That, you know, Rob has already said that there won't be sort of massive national actions apart from what is supporting local groups. So a lot of the resources of XR will be going to support these campaigns, joint campaigns. Okay, there is a question. There's a question around what a win would look like. So I'm going to pass that over to Rob.
Yeah, I was looking for what the actual wording of this question was. It was quite good early on, and then I lost it, and I was screen sharing, so I forgot to write it down. I mean, I just want to riff off what Molly said as well. I mean, we talked about this a lot. It's like a UK action strategy is local action strategy. And by connecting them together, you're turning the local into something that's much more national already. But what it means is that all of this, you know, I think these polls were so interesting. We got a lot of amazing information about what's really like the support that is needed. All of the teams in XR UK that are working, we often end up working separately in our own directions, and we feel like, oh well, if we only all did this, then it would all come together. But actually people are already doing things, but they just need the right tailored support. And actually people can already support each other in lots of ways. The way that we amplify all the work and all the expertise we have is by connecting, coordinating really well. So what does a win look like? Well, that's really interesting, because we're actually talking about quite a long time scale now. And when you saw in that quote that I gave, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. It's quite hard to say from that what in the immediate term looks like a win. So especially in the face of capitalism and poverty, and you know, a world that, you know, completely undervalues care and just so many things, it's hard to say what a win is. But I think in this case, for this strategy, every new alliance with a community group that you think will actually work with you, and you can work with them, and you think that next time we call for a rebellion and we all come together, because this time we really need to, because we're in a moment that could really break through next year. Every time you find a community group that you've made those strong relationships, and they now will come with us together because they feel invested in it too, because our liberation is all of our liberation, then that's a win. That's a massive win. It might not feel so tangible as shutting down a coal mine or a high-speed train, but it's a win. And we can really focus on things like that. So I think it is important that we do drill down on that. But at the same time, we will continue to be needing to try and get new local media connections. Actually, local media is a fantastic way for getting stories to break through. And by sharing press releases across similar targets, that's something that we can really build on and tailor that support. So getting some local media coverage would also be really, really powerful. and getting some of this support to the group so they feel more inviting, more easy. All of that stuff for me is these are the wins that are building us towards that thing. As I said, I think we're in a state of consolidation. You know, we built this big one and we've done this amazing leap. How do we now build that next step? And community benefit, everything that undermines the system that is designed to divide us and make us treat each other like objects and capital and exploit each other. Everything that undermines that is a win. Doing it together, doing it better, every time we've come up with a new way is a win.
Thank you. There was a question which I'm just going to give a very brief answer to, actually, with somebody was how to find a coordinator for a very disparate group of freelancers who do not always share what they do, and too many of us sleeping members. I think we really have to recognise that there are a lot of people, really, really valuable people within the movement who don't fit into a local group structure or into a circle on, you know, on the hub. And I think a lot of what propaganda was talking about in creating an actions community is what speaks to that. Is there's a real intent on the part of what are regarded a lot of the time as central circles to really open those out and to connect with people. So, you know, I would say you know, there's a Mattermost community that will, I think the strategy also contains the actions email. Anybody is welcome to email people, to get in touch and to find their niche wherever it is. You know, everybody's welcome and everybody is useful. So I'm just trying to work that. So there's a question here, which I'm going to pass over to Miranda, which is, are XR strategically working with Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace and the organisations that supported the big one?
I mean, yeah, we've spoken to them since the big one, so it depends how you define working with. We're definitely continuing to build on those relationships and in dialogue, and hoping to, you know, build on that. I suppose I feel a bit nervous to sort of say we're doing X or Y without the consent of those organisations, just to be clear. But yeah, we're absolutely still talking to them and wanting to build on what was built on there.
Thank you, Miranda. Got one here from somebody. How do we engage with young people? I'll pass that one to Sparrow.
Thanks, Molly. I don't particularly actually have a huge answer right now, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot over the last few weeks, and something I'm developing more, certainly within my local area. So I'm very aware at the moment that we talk on behalf of a lot of people. We talk on behalf of the next generation, and we actually need to develop relationships there more. And also, what can they do? What can they feel empowered to do? What actually, you know, if they want to take action, if they want to do something, what does that look like? How does it look like? How can we do that in a safe space? I'm currently working on some stuff locally with schools and councils, which I'm developing further, which would, you know, hopefully will bring some good results. But I think it's really important, actually. It's one of my most important things, having a couple of young kids myself. And I think it's something that we need to invest a lot more time in, actually, and give space to. to allow our younger community to talk and be heard in a space that you know, we give and we allow, which sometimes isn't always the way. So
thank you. I'm just going to go to Miranda, who I think has something to add on to that really valuable point.
Yeah, I completely agree, Sparrow. I think listening and helping young people is absolutely essential. I just wanted to sort of quickly add that, you know, going to universities and, you know, places like schools where young people are going to be and doing outreach there is a great idea. And also through alliances, you can reach young people as well. There's lots of groups like People and Planet and Teach the Future and a whole range of climate groups. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, a lot of the kind of Fridays for Future movement took a big battering in this country, and it's difficult because young people don't stay young forever. So I think we do have a responsibility to try and kind of rebuild and help to support like the reigniting of a big mass youth movement in this country. But yeah, I totally agree with Sparrow.
Thank you very much. I'm conscious that we're coming to the end of our time, so that we haven't got time for any more questions, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who has given up their precious time to come here this evening. As I say, there's plenty of contact information. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your questions. Please do get in touch. Please don't think they're not valued and they're not being considered. Thank you for all the information you gave us in the polls as well. We will be sending out a follow-up email, which will have a lot more information and links. And I hope that you'll be able to go back to your local groups or your affinity groups or anybody and connect with people and start planning and start reaching out to your community so that we can really build this. So thank you all. Are we all just going to unmute?
I'm going to say thanks to all the people who made the call happen as well. Amazing team behind.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great evening.